Hello. This is a class on wrapper classes in Java, and my name is John Maxwell. You may ask yourself, what is a wrapper class? So let's come up with a basic definition. A wrapper class is one that takes a primitive data type like an int or a double and puts it in the form of an object. Okay, so here's an example on line 6, the integer class, simply takes a primitive int and turns it into an object. And here's another example down here of a double that wraps up a double value and turns it into an object. So it is a useful class, for example, because you can do things like toString, which converts an integer object to a string, which sometimes can be helpful. So there's not a lot of depth to a wrapper class, but they're important in some ways. Okay, particularly when it comes down to being able to work with objects. Now, one of the things we knew is that an array list is like an array, but you can't store primitive data types within an array list. It's only object types. And so you can see on line 19 that I create a array list of objects. And that works because we know that object is at the top of the inheritance hierarchy. And so, that's important to understand because it's the parent class of all Java classes. And so therefore, any Java class is an object. And we talked about that before, is a relationship. Any class within the Java language has as its ultimate parent the object class way up the hierarchy. So here we create an array list of objects and we add I2, which is an integer, D2, which is a double. We add first, which you can see is a string, and last, which is a string. And we can go through and print each of these objects out. And because each of the classes have implemented a toString method, then it won't use the toString method in the object class when it runs. And that is a moment of dynamic binding that we've called. It looks at the object that's being retrieved from the list and knows that it is in either integer, double, string, and calls the appropriate toString method. The reason why it compiles is because at static binding, the object class has a toString method, so it says everything's fine. I see one there. But at runtime, it will choose the appropriate type. And you'll see that in a moment when I run it. So I'm just going to run it now, and we will just basically take a look. Go, go, go. Here it is, the values here. And so I print out the value 1013, which is an ID, and I print out the value D2, which is the GPA 4.5, and then I print out it all again using the for loop and including Joe Smith, which are the strings that I added to the array list of capital O objects. Now, you'll notice something down here, which is a bit convoluted. I wanted to output the initials of the student, Joe Smith, and I know that the 4 elements in this array list in 0, 1, 2, and 3 indices. Okay. So I do happen to know that in the to indice is where Joe is. However, I can't call a substring method on an object type. Okay. So what I need to do is cast the object that I'm getting out of index 2 into a string so that it can compile. And that is an example of class casting. I have to downcast the um, object in the array list at index 2 into a string. Likewise, I do it over here at index 3. So index 2 and 3 is where I put the strings. Notice the declared on lines 16 and 17, okay, and added to the list on 22 and 23, lines 22 and 23, and so it outputs the JS initials. One thing to note, you'll kind of see that casting has a lower priority than a method call. And so you need to cast the object first before you call the substring method. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. And if you've taken away like the idea that being able to put an integer and a double into an array list of objects gives you a good sense of why a wrapper class really exists. Well, this has been a story about wrapper classes. We'll talk to you next time.